Casey Rump, a respectful and realistic relationship, is it?
I think it has a possibility of getting there. When Obama took the presidency, he had a great prospect for reconstructing a relationship with the Latin American region, and I think it's fair to say that it hasn't been quite to where we expected it to be. I think while the U.S. has been distracted with wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, that Latin America has built relationships, partnerships, formed new ideas, and if the U.S. wants to improve relations with Latin America, it needs to approach the region with innovation and collaboration rather than a sort of unilateral and aggressive tendency that we tend to have when it comes to Latin America. And in other words, we need to treat them more so as our neighbor rather than as our self-proclaimed backyard, per se.
So when you say new relations, while the U.S. has been distracted with other parts of the world, Latin America's gone on and made new friends?
No, I think they've made partnerships, whether that be in the region or abroad. I think they've made these new partnerships, and the whole atmosphere, the majority of the atmosphere of Latin America has changed. And I think the United States needs to recognize that and change their policies towards that to more reflect a cohesive nature.
Mauricio, has the new multilateral world been good for Central and South America?
Yes, absolutely, because countries have related with these other poles of development, China, Europe, Asia in general. That has been very healthy for Latin America. Latin America has basically shown remarkable economic progress in the past, say, decade, and that also has strengthened its ties with the rest of the world. So the relationship with the U.S. has to be revamped. And I think what the U.S. and Latin America are searching for is a new theme, something new in this relationship. I think it was dominated by drugs with a number of countries for too long, still a major issue in Mexico. Then trade, which was good, but this administration doesn't show any interest on the trade agenda. So I think we have to search for a new theme. Maybe it's going to be energy. Maybe it's energy integration, energy cooperation, figuring out ways of reducing oil dependence in the U.S., allowing the region to be more proactive in developing technologies in biofuels, accessing the U.S. market. I don't know. I don't have the answer, but there's a search of a new theme in this relationship.
What has the emergence of a global scale giant in Brazil done to this relationship? Has it changed the terms? You can't just think of South America, for instance, in the way you did in the 60s in the shadow of the Cold War, Ray?
Absolutely. The emergence of Brazil is one of the great challenges. It was a challenge for the Bush administration, which did a pretty good job of establishing a partnership. But Brazil's economic rise, but also its rise seeing itself as a player on the international stage. I mean, today I think you have Lula da Silva I think he's in Israel, he's visiting in the Palestinian Gaza area, he's trying to become involved, he's trying to show that he can be a constructive player in the Middle East peace process. And that relationship with Iran, which became sort of the crucial point when the secretary went to Brasilia in the conversation, and at the end of the day agreeing to disagree and continue to adjourn this issue later on. We looked for Lula da Silva's visit in May to Iran. Brazil's emergence has promise, and it has to us, for U.S. interests and our security view of the world, a certain amount of peril also.
Peter, every time there was an election in Central or South America and a left-wing government was replaced by a right-wing government, or a right-wing government was replaced by a left-wing one, my other program on PBS, the News Hour, would call guys like you to sit around a table and knit your brows and think about what this means. Is that old-fashioned sort of co-war thinking? Has South America and Central America, to perhaps a lesser degree, established peaceful, unremarkable switches in parties and governments in such a way that this isn't such a big deal anymore? You don't have to sit and rack your brains over what it means that somebody else got elected in Chile, for instance?
Well, it's sort of ironic in some ways because as politics seems to be getting more bitter here and our politics becomes more polarized, we're hearing after election in Latin America that no, the election of a right-wing government in Chile won't mean much change in terms of their international policies or their economic policy. Doesn't really matter who wins the upcoming election in Brazil. It's established a basis of stability and continuity. And here, of course, every political decision seems to, the fate of the republic seems to hinge on it. So in some ways, we may have changed positions with Latin America in terms of a sense of continuity and stability. But I think Latin America still, I think what you've heard from the others here, isn't something of a state of flux. It's flexing more economic muscle than it ever has in the past. It has a diversity of international relations it hasn't had. It's beginning very clearly to take on the problems, the conflicts, the tensions in its region and try to resolve those without the U.S., seeing whether it's Colombia, Ecuador, whether it's Bolivia. In other words, the countries themselves are beginning to take charge, and that has a profound effect. I don't know if we've yet seen that effect yet. We're in the midst of this changing, and I think the reaction of Latin America to the global economic crisis, where they fell into the crisis after the United States and Europe, and they seem to be emerging more quickly, suggested that they have a robustness in their economics and in their politics that is going to bode well for them in the future.